We're doing a lot of badass stuff and it looks really cool, but that doesn't mean you should do it. As a SEAL for 12 years, I learned quick that testing and evaluation are critical. I want to have the zip ties knuckle to knuckle. You have no idea what works and what doesn't until the bullets actually start flying. And now that I'm out, I get tons of people asking me all the time about their favorite TV shows and movies. What's realistic and what isn't? Well, there's only one way to find out. It's time to put Hollywood to the test. I'm Dom Rosso, and this is Media Lab. Welcome to this week's episode of Media Lab. In this episode, we're going to talk about full auto, why it's a good idea, why it's not a good idea, and take a really good scene from a movie and break it down. And first, what we're going to talk about is a movie from my childhood, one of my favorite movies, the movie Predator. So here's a scene right here. That was a badass scene from the movie Predator. Talk about a volley of fire. Those guys were laying down some serious lead. I don't think anybody really would have got out of that close range unless you were the Predator and you could change levels and climb trees at amazing light speeds. But now we're going to talk about a newer movie, White House Down, and I have my buddy Dylan here to break that down with me. Not only does it have a full auto scene, but it also has a fight scene in it as well. So we get to break that down right here. Let's check out the clip. That's the worst part right there where he slides across the table. Talk about cover and concealment, find a little bit of that. He goes dry, he goes to change his mag. In a close quarter scenario, if you have a secondary, the first thing you should be doing is going for your secondary. Clear his line of the body of the attack, and amazingly, the pistol disappears. A little bit of wrestling back and forth. And of course, we end up in this hostage situation.
I said freeze!
Boom, he opens him up and allows him to take the shot.
So the first thing he does when he darts into the room is that he slides across this table, right? If I'm getting somebody that's shooting at me, whether it's full auto or not, the last thing I want to do is take an unknown in my environment that might break, fall, get hung up on in a linear path. When he's shooting straight bullets at me, I want to be zigzagging. I don't want to be going in a straight line. Why not just stay on my feet that I know work, instead of trying to slide across the table, right? That was bad move number one. The first thing that he does after he clears the table is go for cover and concealment. One of the only things that's in the kitchen that he can do that behind is the island. So he's moving through, he's ducking low, he's getting low down to the ground. This is providing a little bit of cover, a little bit of concealment, but the gig's up. The guy's got a full auto gun. He's coming, he's closing the distance on him. He's shooting rounds down, he's staying low to the ground. But the mistake that happens was right when he gets to the very end of it, is his gun goes dry. And he hears that, he hears the click, he hears the mag change starting to happen, so he's gonna take advantage of that. Starts bringing in his environment, looks for improvised weapons. He grabs the toaster, and this is the part that I don't like, is doing the pirouette and the fancy move, and you see this all the time in Hollywood, and we're always gonna call it out every single time we see it. So he's grabbing this thing, he's turning all the way around. Yes, he creates a little bit of momentum, but a lot of things can change when I turn my back on this guy, and I don't want to do that. What I would probably do is, as I'm closing the distance and he's trying to get his stuff together, is I'm still stepping towards him. Now I'm hitting the gun here, throwing this overhand shot, everything goes flying, and now he ends up producing the pistol, and he's like, oh, probably a good idea to do this now. He has that lull, he's able to create distance, he does a redirect with the gun, closes the distance, ends up almost in a rear bear hug here.
Yeah, I don't understand exactly why he would give his backup in this situation, but
yep, this is where they end up. This is how they coordinated it. This isn't the ideal situation. They go back, they crash against the countertop, and magically this weapon isn't there anymore. And you see little errors like that all the time in Hollywood, but the gun would probably still be here and you'd have to deal with it. Now they're dragging themselves all the way across the countertop. They end up taking in their environment again, using improvised weapons. He's throwing stuff. He's like, okay, F you, I'm gonna throw stuff at you. After they throw this here, he throws a big haymaker elbow, grabs him, level change, throws him on top of the table, ends up dragging him all the way across here, and they end up almost back right where they started. But now his buddy comes into the room and it's a hostage situation. What do you do in a hostage situation, whether you're the guy being held or the guy shooting? We're gonna talk about that in another episode because there's way better scenes to do that with. But he ends up clearing some space anyway. He does a little back and forth, finally gets enough space to throw overhand elbow. And then he breaks away and the scene's over. All right, guys, that was White House Down with the full auto scene. That was actually really fun to break down. And frankly, we think full auto is really good for covering fire, not used too often to have effective fire going down range. We typically use semi-auto. So we kind of saw a little bit what to do, what not to do. Don't slide across a table or an unknown environment, and use cover and concealment.
One thing that I really liked was the use of improvised weapons. We saw 3 different types. We saw flexible weapons, we saw projectiles, we saw contact improvised weapons, which was really cool because we train that all the time.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, guys, we still have the questions coming in for social media, so we're going to read a couple of them before we wrap up this episode. And the first one is, Dom, what charities do you back and why? So that's a really interesting question. And one of the ones that I've been supporting is the Naval Special Warfare Foundation, because it's an overall organization that supports my entire community. SEALs particularly, obviously, I've lost a lot of brothers along the way, so those families are really important to me. All right, so the second question is, how do I become a badass? I have 3 weeks. Well, you're not going to become a badass in 3 weeks, so forget about it. But seriously, look up combatives. Spend 3 weeks doing combatives. You're going to be better than doing any other martial art out there. And that's this episode of Media Lab. We had a lot of fun breaking down White House Down with the full auto scene. Look forward to doing it again. See you guys in the next episode.